At a New Year's dinner, my mom suddenly stood and declared, "We're done babysitting your kids." I glanced around and replied, "Really?" Then I added, "No more favors. No more fixing things." I walked out. By morning my phone was exploding, 48 missed calls. Then I posted one comment on her Facebook, and the entire family turned against her. My name is Madison Clark, I am 34, a single mom and an ICU nurse. And on New Year's Eve, my own mother managed to turn a simple family dinner into the moment I realized our relationship was never going to be the same. We were halfway through dessert at her shiny new suburban house, everyone pretending to be relaxed while the TV in the background counted down to midnight, when she suddenly stood up, lifted her glass and said loud enough for the whole dining room to hear, "We are not babysitting your kids anymore." The room went dead quiet. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. My girls looked up at me, then at her, trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke. It was not. She folded her arms and repeated it slower this time, like she was making an official announcement. "No more babysitting, no more late nights, no more being your backup plan." I felt the heat crawl up my neck, but my voice came out calm when I answered. "Seriously, Mom? Then no more middle of the night rides to the doctor. No more grocery runs, no more repairs. You cannot cut me off and still expect me to be your on-call chauffeur and handyman." Somebody cleared their throat, someone else stared at their plate, but nobody said a word for me, so I did the only thing that felt right. I grabbed my coat, told my girls to put on their shoes, and walked out of that New Year's dinner before the countdown even hit 10. At the time, I thought I was just setting a boundary. I did not know that when I woke up the next morning, my phone would be lit up with 48 missed calls, and that one single comment I left on her post would flip my entire family on its head. The front door slammed behind us just as someone inside started the countdown from 10. I could still hear the muffled cheer when the ball dropped on TV, but out on the driveway, it was just cold desert air, and the sound of Haley sniffling as she fumbled with her jacket. Zipper Mom did not come after us, neither did Frank. For a second I just stood there next to my car, keys in my hand, wondering if I was really doing this, walking away from the only built-in childcare I had as a single mom working nights in an ICU. Then I remembered the way my girls' faces had fallen when she said, "No more babysitting." Like they were some kind of burden, and the doubt cleared out of my chest. I got the girls buckled in, climbed into the driver's seat, and started the engine as the headlights cut across my mom's perfect new lawn and the freshly laid pavers I had helped her pick out. I could not help thinking about how we got here. For months I had been driving 30-40 minutes out of Phoenix after 12-hour shifts to take her to heart appointments, to push her cart through Costco, to deal with her insurance and pharmacy mix-ups because those online portals confuse me. Honey, I had spent my rare free weekends out in that same backyard, tearing up old concrete, painting fences and dealing with HOA emails, so she did not get fined. The deal was simple. I helped her keep her new retired life running smoothly, and in return, she watched Haley and Sophie the nights my schedule went crazy. It was not charity. It was supposed to be family helping family. Mom was the one who turned it into a transaction the moment she stood up and revoked her side of it. In front of everyone exiting the subdivision, I caught Haley's eyes in the rearview mirror. She was blinking hard, trying not to cry. "Is Grandma mad at us?" she asked. I shook my head, swallowing the lump in my throat. "No, baby, Grandma is not mad at you. She is mad at me, and she does not know how to say it without hurting other people too." Sophie kicked her little boots against her car seat. "Did we do something wrong?" I took a breath. "You did nothing wrong. Sometimes grown-ups say mean things because they are tired or jealous or stuck in old habits that does not make them right. My job is to make sure you know you are not a burden to me ever." By the time we reached our apartment in the city, the streets were almost empty. A few leftover fireworks popping in the distance. I heated up leftover mac and cheese, poured sparkling juice into mismatched mugs, and we watched the replay of the New York countdown on my tiny TV. Haley leaned her head on my shoulder. Sophie curled against my side, and as we whispered, "Happy New Year" to each other, it hit me that maybe starting the year with just the three of us was not a loss. It was the first clean break from a pattern that had been choking me for years. I just had no idea what it was about to cost my mother. The first thing I heard on New Year's morning was my phone buzzing on the nightstand, like it was trying to drill through the wood. My head was thick from too little sleep, and for a second I thought it was the hospital calling me in for an emergency shift. I reached over, squinted at the screen, and my stomach dropped. 48 missed calls, most of them from Mom. Some from Frank, a couple from the house phone, a few from a number I recognized as my Aunt Denise for one horrible moment. My nurse brain kicked in heart attack, fall stroke. Something had happened after we left. I sat up already mentally running through which I should take her to if it was serious. I called Mom back. She picked up on the second ring, her voice tight. Not weak or sick. Just pissed off. You need to come out here, Madison. We need to talk. I exhaled a long, slow breath. I had not realized I was holding. Are you okay? I asked. Are you in pain? Did something happen to your heart? She sighed. Like I was being dramatic. I am fine. Just get in the car and come. This cannot wait. The way she said it, clipped and commanding, sounded more like a supervisor than a mother, worried about reconciling after a fight. I glanced at the girls, still sleeping on the pull-out couch, hair everywhere, blankets twisted around them. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her sit with what she had done. Another part needed to make sure there was not some mess brewing that would get worse if I left it alone. So I threw on jeans and a hoodie, wrote a note for Haley in case she woke up and panicked, and drove back out toward the suburbs with a knot in my stomach that had nothing to do with coffee. When I pulled into her driveway, the house looked exactly like it had the night before. No ambulance, no neighbors clustered outside. Just a quiet street and a shiny front door. Inside, Mom was sitting at the dining table, makeup on, hair done, not a hospital bracelet in sight. Frank was next to her nursing, a mug of coffee, like it was a shield. Across from them sat Aunt Denise, hands folded, mouth pressed into a thin line. The whole setup looked less like a family emergency and more like a disciplinary hearing. I stopped just inside the doorway so no one is dying. I asked. Mom rolled her eyes. Can you not be so dramatic? We called because what you did last night was completely out of line and childish. You embarrassed us in front of everyone and stormed out over one little comment. One little comment, I repeated, telling your grandkids they are basically a burden is not little Mom. Frank cleared his throat. We just think you overreacted. Your mom has done a lot for you. You would not have made it through the divorce without her. Mom sat up straighter, seizing on that. Exactly after everything your father put you through, who was there, babysitting, cooking, helping you find this job, watching those girls all the time, and you repay me by threatening to cut me off from my doctor appointments and groceries because I am finally setting a boundary. My jaw clenched. You did not set a boundary. You threw a grenade. You could have pulled me aside any other time and said you needed to cut back on babysitting. Instead, you announced it in front of my kids and half the family like you were making a toast. Denise shifted in her chair. Maggie, she said quietly, you have to admit saying it that way was harsh. It sounded a lot like the way you used to talk to Madison when she was a kid. Remember? Mom's eyes flashed. Do not start, Denise. This is between me and my daughter. She turned back to me. The point is, you still have responsibilities as my child. I am older now. I cannot just drive myself to cardiology. I cannot haul groceries by myself. You do not get to withdraw all that just because your feelings are hurt. So let me get this straight. I said you want to be done watching my kids. You still expect me to drive 40 minutes each way? Whenever you need something, fix whatever breaks. Argue with the HOA for you and handle all your online medical junk, because that is not a boundary. That is a one-way street. That is how family works. Mom snapped. Parents take care of children. Then children take care of parents. You owe me the word, oh. Hit something raw in me. All those nights I had driven on no sleep, all the canceled plans, all the times. I swallowed her comments, just to keep the peace lined up in my mind like a row of receipts. I looked at Denise. She held my gaze, then gave the tiniest nod like she was saying, I see you. I turned back to my mother. No, I do not owe you rides. I do not owe you free labor. I do not owe you my kids' feelings. In exchange for your convenience, you made it very clear last night that you do not want to be part of my support system anymore, so I am taking you at your word. Mom's face went blotchy. So what? You are just going to abandon your mother now that she is old. I am not abandoning you. I said, I am telling you that starting today, I am not your chauffeur or your handyman. If you need to get to the doctor, you can call a neighbor, a taxi, Uber, whatever. If you want someone to fix your fence, you can pay them. I am done being the only one sacrificing. The room went so quiet, I could hear the fridge humming. Frank opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, then closed it again. Denise stared down at her hands. Mom looked at me like she did not recognize me. You cannot be serious. Watch me, I said. And for the second time, in 24 hours, I walked out of her house, this time with no kids to shield me and no guilt heavy on my shoulders. Just a strange cold certainty that I had finally cut the cord she kept using to pull me back. I did not know yet how much that cut was going to cost her. The first few days after that second walkout were weirdly quiet. I went back to my night shifts, back to charting and alarms and families, huddled in ICU waiting rooms, and for the first time in months, I was not mentally calculating how many minutes it would take to detour through my mom's suburb to pick up her prescriptions or drop off groceries. Then the messages started. At first they were short and almost polite. Madison, I am sorry if I hurt your feelings. Can we talk? Then I missed the girls. Let me see my granddaughters. I stared at my phone between patients, my thumbs hovering over the keyboard. She was not apologizing for what she said. She was apologizing for my reaction. So I replied once short. I am not keeping them from you, but we are taking a break until I know you can be kind to them. That is all. The next morning, there was another text. Fine. I will babysit sometimes, but you still need to drive me to my appointments. I cannot do all this on my own. There it was again, the trade, the expectation that my time and energy were a resource. She could negotiate for like a discount at the register. I did not answer. Over the next week, the messages started to swing like a pendulum. One day it was guilt. After all I have done for you, this is how you repay me. The next day it was martyrdom. Do not worry about your old mother. I will figure it out somehow. Then came the flying monkey calls from relatives who clearly only had half the story. Your mom called me crying. Madison. She says, you told her to handle her health alone. You know, she had that heart scare last year. I would listen, then say calmly, Mom is a grown woman who decided my kids were too much for her to handle. I am taking her seriously. She can use the same apps I use to get her where she needs to go. Some of them got it, some did not. In the middle of all that, I had my own life to patch together. I talked to a neighbor in my apartment building, another single mom who worked at the school cafeteria, and we set up a trade. She watched Haley and Sophie on nights. I had late shifts, and on my off days I took her son so she could pick up extra morning hours. I emailed the charge nurse and shifted a couple of my most brutal back-to-back nights into slightly more manageable rotations. I stopped automatically checking my phone on breaks to see what my mother needed. It felt strange, like when you get a cast-off and your arm is naked and too light. A week later, Aunt Denise texted me. Can I swing by this weekend? I have something I want to talk about away from your mom. She showed up at my apartment on a Saturday afternoon with a grocery bag full of bakery cookies, and that look she has when she's about to say something honest that not everyone will like. The girls were in their room painting. So we sat at my tiny kitchen table for a while. She asked about work, about the kids, about how I was sleeping. Then she sighed and leaned back. Your mom is spiraling. She said that company she hired for the backyard and kitchen redo, they are already sending updated invoices. She shrugged. Hidden fees, material upgrades, extra labor. The number is nowhere near what she bragged about. I fiddled with the cookie wrapper. She could have avoided all of that if she had just waited for me to have a free weekend. Denise nodded. She could have. Then she would have had to admit she needs you. And lately I think that scares her more than the bills do. I frowned. What does that even mean? She studied me. You know how for years your mom told everyone how hard her life was, raising you girls alone, putting food on the table, all that. Some of it was true, but it also became her whole identity, the sacrificial mother. The one who suffered while everyone else took from her. I thought about all the stories Mom liked to tell at holidays, the ones that always ended with her shaking her head and laughing about how ungrateful we had been as kids. Denise went on then, here you come, single mom. Yes, but you get your degree. You land this intense nursing job. You buy your own car. You show up every time something breaks. You take care of your kids, without dumping them on her full time. Little by little people stop talking about how much she sacrifices, and start talking about how strong you are. She loses the spotlight. I stared at her. Are you saying she cut off babysitting because of attention? Denise hesitated, choosing her words. I think your mom feels replaced. She does not get to be the hero anymore. She does not get to say, I am the only thing standing between Madison and disaster. Watching the girls taking your kids overnight, that was the last piece she could hold over you. So when she got overwhelmed and resentful, she ripped it away in the most dramatic way possible, and hoped you would crawl back on her terms. The words hit something I had not wanted to name. I remembered every backhanded comment about my schedule. Every time she told someone I worked too much. Every side-by-side comparison between my girls and perfect little Caleb. And under all of it, this quiet tension whenever someone complimented me instead of her. I felt tired down to my bones. So what am I supposed to do? I asked. Go back over there and pretend it did not happen. Just so she does not feel threatened. Denise shook her head no. I am telling you this. So you stop thinking you are crazy. You are not overreacting. You are finally stepping out of a role she wrote for you a long time ago, and she's throwing a fit because the script changed. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Let her sit with the consequences. She is the one who wanted to be independent. Remember? I looked toward the girls' room where laughter floated through the door. For the first time I let myself imagine a future where my little family did not revolve around putting out my mother's emotional fires, and somewhere between the cookies and the quiet, I decided I was done rushing in every time she lit the match. A few days after Denise's visit, life settled into a strange new rhythm where my phone did not vibrate every hour with some errand from my mother, and I almost started to believe she had finally accepted this new version of us. Then a screenshot popped up in our family group chat, one of those small ones where you have to zoom in. It was a picture Mom had posted to her neighborhood page, standing in front of a half-finished backyard kitchen, all concrete dust and exposed pipes, smiling like she was on a home makeover show. New year, new projects. Doing this all on our own now. The caption read, no more. Waiting on other people to show up underneath. A few of her friends had commented those little clap compliments calling her inspiring, independent, a survivor. I stared at it during my lunch break, remembering the weekends I had spent out there ripping up old pavers in the heat while she sat in the shade, telling me which tile pattern she saw on Pinterest. She had not hired help because she did not have anyone. She had hired help because she wanted to prove she did not need me. At first it was just annoying petty. Then the numbers started trickling to me. Denise called one night, while I was sorting the girls' laundry. Your mom finally showed me the contracts, she said without preamble. Remember that $10,000 quote she bragged about at Christmas? It is closer to 20 now. I sat down the laundry basket, how Denise let out a humorless laugh. The original quote was bare bones. The guy tacked on upgraded stone gas lines, a bigger grill, a pergola, some fancy lighting package. Every time she said yes, he wrote it down as a change order. Now there are line items for rush fees, extra labor permit handling. And because she waited until they were already digging before she filed half the paperwork, the city inspector came out and slapped her with fines for starting without proper permits. HOA 2. She is being hit on both ends. My chest tightened, not with sympathy at first, but with that sick familiar feeling of watching someone drive into a ditch. You warned them about why did she not call me when they brought the contract? I asked. I could have looked at it because that would mean admitting she needed you. Denise said, and right now she would rather bleed money than give you that win over the next week. The story evolved as it filtered through the family. One cousin mentioned Mom had called asking to borrow $500 until the inspection message sorted out. My grandmother let it slip that Maggie had cried on the phone about how she had no one to help her. How her ungrateful daughter had left her to deal with construction sharks. The words ungrateful daughter hit a nerve, the same old refrain she had used on me since I was a teenager. Anytime I wanted something for myself. Only this time there were receipts. I was not the one who signed loans or hired contractors off TV commercials. She was one afternoon between shifts. I stopped by a coffee shop near the hospital and found Denise already there, a manila folder sitting on the table between her hands. She slid it toward me. I told her I should not, but she insisted I opened it there. It was in black and white. The initial quote, 10,000. The revised total, just under 22. A red stamp from the city detailing the code violations, a letter from the HOA threatening additional penalties if certain structures were not brought up to standard within 30 days. My mother's signature at the bottom of every page. I felt my jaw clench. This is her mess, I said quietly. Denise nodded. It is. And she is already trying to spin it like it happened because you were not there to save her from it. That stung more than the numbers. She was doing exactly what she had always done, turning her choices into my responsibility. The difference was that this time there was nothing I could fix with a weekend of sweat and a couple of phone calls. Money owed was money owed. Permits filed late. Were still late. Contractors who smelled desperation did not suddenly grow a conscience. because a nurse with 2 kids frowned at them for a brief second. I pictured driving out there anyway, marching up to the project manager, tearing through every clause until he agreed to cut the bill. I imagined throwing my credentials and my anger, and every ounce of my energy into salvaging her backyard, just so she would not have to sit in the ruins of her pride. Then I pictured Haley's face when I had to cancel movie night again. I pictured Sophie asking why Grandma could hurt her feelings and still get everything she wants. I closed the folder and pushed it back. I am not getting involved, I said. Denise searched my face, then nodded slowly. Good. She needs to know that consequences are not just things that happen to other people. Later that week, Mom finally broke her silence with me. She called while I was on my break, her voice thick and practiced. I hope you are happy, she said without hello. That company is robbing us blind. If you had been here, this never would have happened. I took a breath, kept my voice level. If you had waited and talked to me before signing anything, I could have warned you. You chose to do it without me. That was your decision. Now you have to deal with the fallout, she scoffed. So, that is it. You are just going to sit back in your little apartment, while your mother drowns in debt because you are mad. I said no to babysitting. I stared at the vending machine at rows of snacks behind glass. For years I had been the emergency exit she ran to every time the smoke started rising. But I was not the one holding the lighter. I am not sitting back, I said quietly. I am taking care of my kids, working my job, paying my own bills. I am not responsible for contracts I did not sign. There was a long silence on the line for once. She had no quick comeback. When she finally hung up, my hands were shaking, but under the fear and the old guilt, there was something else. Something that felt almost like relief. Let her learn what it means to be independent. The way she bragged about online. I thought let her feel maybe for the first time what it is like when there is no one left to clean up the mess. But the person who made it 2 weeks passed before my mother tried a different approach. The messages stopped swinging between guilt and rage, and one afternoon in the middle of my shift, a new text popped up that actually made me pause. Madison, I know I said things I should not have. I was stressed, and I took it out on you and the girls. Can we please meet and talk like adults? I stared at the screen in the supply closet, reading it 3 times. For the first time, there was no immediate pivot to everything I had done wrong. I did not trust it. But I also knew these moments were rare with her. So I typed back, short coffee, public place, no arguments in front of the girls. She agreed so fast, it almost made me suspicious. We met on a Sunday afternoon at a cafe halfway between my apartment and her suburb. I got there early and sat by the window, hands wrapped around a mug. I could barely taste when she walked in with Frank at her shoulder. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically exactly, but like the air had gone out of her a little. She sat down across from me, eyes shiny, above her, untouched coffee. I am sorry, she said without preamble. The words sounded stiff in her mouth, like a foreign language for what I asked. I was not going to let her slide by on a general apology for my feelings for the way I said things at dinner. For embarrassing you in front of the girls, for saying they were too much. She looked away as she said the last part, but at least she said it. Frank nodded. It was not our best moment. I took a breath that hurt them. I said, Haley asked me if Grandma was mad at her. Sophie wanted to know what she did wrong. They heard you, Mom. They are not deaf. Her face crumpled for a second the way it used to when we were little, and she realized she had gone one step too far. I never meant to hurt them, she whispered. I felt cornered. Everyone talking about how strong you are, how you do everything alone. I used to be the one people said that about. Now it is like I am invisible unless something is wrong with my heart or my bills. There it was, the thing Denise had tried to explain to me, coming straight out of my mother's mouth. You think I am taking your place? I said, slowly. She shook her head, then nodded, then shook it again. I think I spent 30 years sacrificing, and then suddenly you are the one everyone is impressed by. You are the hero now. It is stupid. I know, but it feels like there is no room for me anymore unless I am needed. Frank cleared his throat. She has been struggling since she retired, he said quietly. She does not say it right, but she is scared. Scared of what I asked. Of not mattering. Answered a lot of questions. I never knew how to ask. I sat back feeling something like sympathy and anger twisting together. I understand being scared. I said, I understand feeling invisible. I have felt like that my whole life around you. Her eyes snapped up. That is not fair. I swallowed the hurt that wanted to spill out. Maybe it was not fair, but it was true, and if we were doing honesty, then we were doing all of it. Here is where I am at. I said I am done tying my life in knots to keep you comfortable. I am done driving after 12-hour shifts to do things you can pay someone else to do. I am done letting my kids be collateral damage in whatever you are feeling about your own life. If you want a relationship with me and with them, it has to look different. She stiffened different how I held up a finger. 1. You do not get to call my kids a burden too much, or anything like that ever again, not even as a joke. If you are overwhelmed, you say you are overwhelmed. You do not dump it on them. Second finger 2. Babysitting is not a bargaining chip. If you are too tired or do not want to watch them, you say no. If you say yes, you do it without keeping score. That is the only way this works. Third 3. I am not your chauffeur or handyman anymore. I will help when I genuinely can and when I choose to, not because I am guilted into it. You have other options. You can ask friends, neighbors, church, people, a ride service, use them. She opened her mouth probably to say, that is not how family works, then saw my face and shut it again. Frank spoke instead. That sounds reasonable, he said slowly. Maggie, we can figure out other ways to get around your life. Cannot depend on Maddie being on call forever. My mother stared at her hands. So what do I get? She asked quietly. You get chances to be a grandmother. I said, not by right, by choice. If you can respect those boundaries, if you can be kind to my daughters consistently, I will bring them over. Sometimes they can bake with you, watch movies, plant flowers, whatever you want. But if you cross those lines, I will pull back. No big blow up, no screaming match. I will just be done. The words hung there between us. For once, she did not argue. She just sat very still, then nodded once sharp and small. I will try. She said it was not a promise. It was not a miracle transformation, but it was the closest thing to accountability I had ever heard from her. We finished our coffee in uneasy silence, talking around safer topics, school and work and the weather. When I left, she hugged me stiff and quick, like she was not sure if she was allowed on the drive home. I kept waiting for that familiar wave of guilt to crash over me for being so firm. It did not come. Instead, there was a thin, fragile sense of peace. We had not fixed anything. We had just put a fence around the damage and agreed not to cross it. I let the girls decide about visits. When Haley said she was ready to see Grandma again, I took them out for a short Sunday afternoon visit. Stayed the whole time and left before anyone got tired for a little while. It almost looked like we might make this new version of family work. What I did not know was that my mother was still clinging to her old script in one place I had not thought to check yet: online. It started with a notification I almost ignored. Someone had tagged me in a post in our private family Facebook group. My mother had posted a selfie of her and Frank in front of the finished backyard kitchen, all glowing lights and stone countertops. The caption hit harder than the picture. After a rough year, we finally did it. She wrote, all on our own, no help, no handouts. Just two old folks figuring things out without relying on anyone. Sometimes you realize you raised your kids to be so independent they forget family underneath. Relatives were already praising her, calling her strong, saying she always sacrificed the most. It was the same old story updated for social media. The abandoned mother, the ungrateful daughter, except now I could literally see the lie. I thought about letting it go. I pictured Haley's face when Mom called my kids too much. Remembered the 48 missed calls, the way she kept trying to drag me back into the role of rescuer. My hands stopped shaking. I opened my photos, pulled up a shot of me covered in dust, ripping up her old backyard, and a screenshot of our old text, where she had spelled out the deal in her own words. If you help us get this place fixed up, we will watch the girls whenever you need. Family takes care of family under her post. I replied with the 2 images and wrote the yard. Looks amazing, Mom. Just to be clear, it was not done all on your own. I spent months driving out after 12-hour ICU shifts to tear up concrete, deal with your HOA and help pick materials. You offered babysitting in return when you stood up on New Year's and said you were done watching my kids. You ended that deal. I chose not to fix the rest because you made it clear you did not want me as family, just as free labor. I wish you had told the whole story here. I hit post and set my phone down. Notifications blew up almost immediately. Aunt Denise liked my comment. Monica, the cousin with Caleb, added that she had heard the same agreement from my mom months ago. Then someone dropped a screenshot of the whole thread into the wider Reed family group. That is when people really started speaking up. My grandmother commented that Mom had borrowed money, claiming no one would help her. without mentioning she had pushed me away. An uncle pointed out this was not the first time. She refused advice and then wanted rescuing. Monica asked her publicly to stop comparing her perfect son to my girls for once. I did not jump in to calm anyone down. I just watched as my mother's favorite narrative cracked. No one called her names. They simply stopped pretending they did not see the pattern. Mom deleted her post and messaged me. I hope you are satisfied. You turn my family against me. I wrote back. I did not turn them against you. I just stopped covering for you. What they do with the truth is on them. Later, Denise told me Grandma had paused the quiet financial help. She had been sending my mother for years, saying maybe it was time. Maggie sat with her own choices. A few relatives quietly removed Mom from smaller chats. She dominated. It was not some dramatic exile, just a gentle pulling away from the drama she used to control. That night, after I tucked the girls in, I left the family group myself and turned off notifications. Instead, I answered messages from the people who actually showed up for us. The neighbor who traded kid watching, the coworker who swapped shifts, the moms who offered rides sitting there in the dim light. I realized this was my real revenge, if you could even call it that. I had told the truth once in public, and then refused to go back to my old role. I chose boundaries over guilt, my daughter's safety over my mother's comfort. If there is a lesson in all of this, it is that you do not owe your silence to anyone, even a parent, when they are hurting you or your kids. Family is not a free pass to be cruel. Sometimes the most powerful kind of family revenge is simply walking away from the toxic script, building something healthier with people who actually care, and letting the ones who tried to break you live with the fact that you turned out okay without them. For more interesting stories, please like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon for upcoming stories.